She'll go back to calling for change from the outside. Taryn Grant, CBC News, Halifax.
Ryan Snoddon with us now after 2 beautiful days in Nova Scotia. I don't think too many people are complaining about that.
No, Sunday, one of the best days so far this summer, really, in my humble opinion. The humidity was low. We had lots of sunshine. It was really a terrific day. You can see another beautiful one out there today. Temperatures a little bit warmer in the mid to high 20s, kind of widespread. We have temps a bit cooler along parts of the coast, but overall those highs were very nice. Now we've been watching some active weather sparking up over the last couple of hours. Cumberland County in particular, a couple little showers in and around the Cobequid Bay area, and a cell that has just fired up in and around the Hants County area, edging into northern Halifax County. We'll be watching that over the next couple of hours. So the risk for showers and thunderstorms will continue through this evening. Then we're going to be watching more activity sail southward along this frontal boundary. So tonight, the showers and thunderstorm chances end. Tomorrow, we'll see a mix of sun and cloud, very isolated risk of a shower in the morning, more widespread chances into the afternoon as this front moves south, and that will really get things fired up ahead of the front. We are going to be looking at then for Tuesday evening into the overnight, quiet again, sun and cloud Wednesday, showers and thunderstorms firing up. So it's a very rinse and repeat pattern over the next couple of days. And then that front will move southward. And we are again, Thursday even, looking at some showers and thunderstorms developing into the afternoon, especially across the mainland. So we'll be watching that Friday into the weekend, looking pretty good. That's the good news there. Next week, way out, Tropical Storm Ernesto just named in the Atlantic. Tom will let you know what the latest is on that storm coming up.
Building interest in that, I'm sure. Okay, thanks so much, Ryan. We'll talk shortly.
Thank you.
Halifax's new police chief spent his first official day on the job with fellow officers from across the country. The annual Canadian Association of Chiefs of Police Conference is in Halifax. Attendees talked about police responses to demonstrations and protests, and it's been 3 years since Halifax police clashed with a large crowd over the removal of a homeless site at the old library. But McLean says the recent closure of sites at Victoria Park and Grand Parade were very different.
We've seen they've been handled differently. We've seen Victoria Park, we've seen the Grand Parade Square, we've seen those resolved peacefully, and so I think, certainly there have been significant changes made in the way that those type of events have been handled since that particular time, and not so much, certainly, HRM has taken on a much different tact in terms of, the Community Safety Office, in terms of recognizing that, the police certainly do have a role to play, but it's not necessarily a lead role all the time.
We'll hear more from the chief about the force's approach to protesters a little later in the program. He's our newsmaker tonight, just after 6:30. The federal government is providing $6.7 million to 2 programs that assist homeless veterans in Nova Scotia. Landing Strong Cooperative, a nonprofit that offers mental health and trauma care for veterans, is getting $1.5 million for its programs that provide financial assistance for housing and other basic needs. And just over $5 million will go to Vets Canada to provide rental supplements and case management services for veterans and connect them with medical help and temporary and transitional housing.
Right now, we rely heavily on hotels, but we also have access to 5 transitional apartments in Halifax, so we're using those. They're never vacant. We move veterans into them and then work as quickly as we can to get them moved into permanent housing.
The funding is from the Veteran Homelessness Program announced by Ottawa in April of 2023. According to the 2021 census, there were an estimated 461,000 Canadian veterans, about 2,600 of whom were experiencing homelessness. The Bidawile Animal Shelter in Dartmouth has reached its shelter capacity after recently taking in 24 cats and kittens from one home. Now they are looking for help to care for them and eventually provide a home for them.
So we received a message on Facebook Messenger, which is a normal way for somebody to contact us to surrender pets. And they sent us a message and said, I'm a retired animal rescuer, and I was reached out to by somebody in my community looking for some help to rehome some kittens. And I offered to help, but now I'm overwhelmed. And so then Sam and I replied, indicating that we did have space, we were willing to help. What was the number? And the number was 24. We are for sure at capacity in our isolation area.
There is certainly more to come. We are working with the individual who brought us the 24, and we're working to help bring in those other adults that are still at that home, and a slower but manageable process for us, so we're not as overwhelmed, but everyone gets to find their forever home. The biggest thing we need help with right now is the financial costs of caring for these kittens and making sure they're all ready.
And I will say that these kittens are very friendly. Like typically if you see cats from a colony come in, they're fearful, a little hesitant to come towards humans. Every single one of these kittens loves to be loved. You can hear them purring behind us. They're happily playing. None of them are cowering or fearful when we approach. They've all got really great dispositions. So I do believe the person who had them love them. And then once they've been vaccinated twice, dewormed twice, flea and tick treated, microchipped and spayed or neutered, given a health bill clean, then they will be available for adoption. Bidewell has been in existence since 1969, and we rely solely on our community and their support. We appreciate what the community does for us, so we want to thank the community for their outpouring of support so far, and just ask for that little bit more.
Residents of an historic Nova Scotia Black community gathered for a special ceremony over the weekend. Beechville is one of this year's recipients of the Lieutenant Governor's Community Spirit Award. The community was founded in 1816 by Black refugees who escaped the United States. Paula Blackmore, part of the committee who nominated Beechville, says the community is deserving.
The hard work and dedication and the togetherness, the unity, the inclusion, there's so many changes happening in the community, and we're still just holding on to one another because we like to hold on to our legacy and our roots and the strength and the resilience of our ancestors, passing it on to each other, and just all our new members coming in. We want to make sure that our history goes on and we share that with everyone, and just out of the spirit. It's like a family. We are one big happy family.
Arisag, Ilmadam, and Bear River First Nation also were recognized by this year's Community Spirit Awards. The model train at the IWK has pulled back into the station at the Children's Hospital once again after a 4-year hiatus. The display has been a popular attraction for years, but the pandemic led to an unscheduled extended stop. Juliana Grillo reports.
After 4 years of inactivity, the model train at the IWK Children's Hospital is back on its tracks to entertain the young patients and their families. The installation started over 20 years ago. However, it had to shut down during the pandemic for safety. A month ago, conductor David Friedman fired up the train engines once again.
Well, during COVID, I wasn't sure if we were going to be able to start up again. But when I got a phone call, I was glad to hear that the hospital wanted us, so I was able to round up 3 other of the original volunteers that were left that could come in and help me clean for about a month and get things operating again.
Sharif Massouk says visiting the hospital as a young child can be scary, which is why he makes sure his kids always make a stop at the trains.
So it's definitely a stopping point. Like, we can't just pass by the train and leave. We have to stay here for a bit and watch the train and interact with it, and it makes them really happy.
Besides the trains, the track is full of interactive buttons and plenty of attractions for the kids.
Down here. So cool.
But for the 6-year-old, nothing beats the train itself.
Smurfs.
The trains move with buttons, and they're modeled, and they move on the train tracks. They have wheels.
The installation may be back, but to keep those wheels spinning, Friedman says more volunteers are needed to step in as conductor.
I would like to have volunteers that would like to carry on. I can't be around here forever.
The only requirement, matching his enthusiasm for trains. Juliana Grillo, CBC News, Halifax.
Coming up, as tensions in the Middle East escalate, the U.S. is sending more firepower to the region. Mass evacuations are underway in Russia. Thousands of people are fleeing as the war intensifies near the Ukrainian border. Lots of great weather these last couple of days. Ryan in to give you the weather forecast for the next few days. He'll be here in just a few minutes. All right, we've had some great weather this summer, there's no doubt about it, but the last couple of days, boy, that blue sky, it's pretty darn nice.
Yeah, and the skies at night have also been nice. And so last night, didn't see any pics from the night before, but last night for sure, had a couple of pics from around the Maritimes in Nova Scotia. This one certainly tops the list. This one, not quite from Nova Scotia, but awfully close.
Pretty close, yeah. That's right.
There's
Looks like the lights from the bridge are illuminating the sky almost.
It does, doesn't it? This, of course, the Confederation Bridge. Barry Burgess with a fantastic shot and just terrific. Now, the Northern Lights tonight, not the same strength of solar activity tonight, so it's a slighter risk that we'll see the chance of seeing the Northern Lights, but where there is a pretty good chance, if you look in the skies tonight, is the Perseids meteor shower is underway. Again, peaking early this morning, but still underway tonight into tomorrow morning. And at a rate of 50 to 75 meters an hour, you never know. So at the very least, you'll perhaps see a couple of meteors, and at the very best, you might even see a little glimpse of the northern lights tonight. And the forecast does look pretty good after we get rid of these scattered showers and thunderstorms that are on the go out there right now. I should say isolated, because that's really what they are. You can see temperatures ranging right now, mid-20s for the most part, but a little cooler in those onshore west to southwest winds, the Tri-County area edging up along the Atlantic coastline. Now let's look at the dew point. You can see in the noticeable range for the most part, edging up a little bit more than that in Sheet Harbor, but overall, that dew point has been much, much better over the last couple of days compared to where we were over the last few weeks. Scattered showers and a few rumbles of thunder Cumberland County and into Cobequid Bay, and that's been holding hands with this little cell here that's developing Hants County, northern Halifax County. That is going to sail eastward. Heavier downpours with these, obviously the risk of lightning, so when the thunder roars, head indoors, don't get caught out in these. We'll keep our eye on the sky over the next hour or so, of course, while we're on the air. Area of high pressure to the north of this cold front is going to be sinking in and eventually clearing the skies out. This area of high pressure is even more of a focus over the next couple of days because we do indeed now have Tropical Storm Ernesto. And of course, Ernesto's track is going to be so heavily tied to that area of high pressure. Is that high further to the west, closer to land, driving Ernesto further west? Or will the high be more out into the Atlantic, allowing Ernesto to curve northward, which it is expected to do throughout the day on Wednesday, tracking north on Thursday, becoming a hurricane, very likely a Category 1, possibly a Category 2 as we move into the Friday time period. And there's Bermuda, that little black dot right there. And so Bermuda in the crosshairs of this one for Saturday. Now, that storm is going to continue to work northward, and all eyes on that throughout the next few days. Certainly, it looks like it will be tracking into Atlantic Canadian waters as we turn the page into early next week. Way too early to say whether it will have any direct impact on us, but it's heading in this direction, so we're of course going to be keeping a very close eye on it. And again, any threat would be early next week, so lots of time to iron that out. Make sure you do stay tuned to the forecast. We will of course be keeping you posted. 13 to 15 degrees for the most part overnight tonight. Couple of warmer temps along parts of the coastline. There are those isolated showers. This forecast model doing a pretty good job, especially with that cell there. And we are expecting more activity, especially in through the northeast for the next few hours. Isolated risk in the southwest tomorrow morning, not just this model, a couple others kicking up those possibilities. Scattered showers, looks like earliest risk will be in Cape Breton tomorrow afternoon, and then more widespread across the province tomorrow afternoon into tomorrow evening. So it's going to be an active day. Keep your eye on the sky, especially in Cape Breton, 21 to 24 degrees. Northumberland Shore also prime for seeing some development tomorrow, but the Halifax area and back towards the valley really can't rule out the risk of a shower or thunderstorm anywhere. Temperatures firmly into the mid-20s. A little cooler on Wednesday. The winds from the northeast on Wednesday on the other side of this front, and that will keep temperatures a little bit cooler. Still running the risk of some pop-up showers. A similar story for Thursday. It's going to remain active over the next few days, though looks like we're going to dry out Friday, Saturday, Sunday. And temperatures looking pretty good, kind of riding right through those mid-20s, Tom.
Looks good indeed. Okay, thanks so much for that, Ryan. We'll talk later.
Thank you.
Well, up next, we'll hear from HRM's Chief of Police about how the department plans to handle protests in this city. He's our Newsmaker interview. Stay with us. You're watching CBC Nova Scotia News. From housing protests that end in violence to peacefully removing pro-Palestinian protesters, Halifax Police says it's trying to change the way it handles such conflicts. The CBC's Haley Ryan caught up with HRM Police Chief Don McLean on his first official day on the job at the annual meeting of the Canadian Association of Chiefs of Police in Halifax earlier today.
The Chiefs of Canada get together regularly, and we talk about these types of issues as well. And in terms of, Toronto speaks of having 1,300 protests since, October. We're not at that level, but we certainly have our number as well. So I think we're just trying to get a framework together of how we can be consistent in our approach with those. And certainly some of the, certainly there are challenges that are inherent with dealing with, certainly emotionally charged protests that occur. But I think that, I think by and large we've done a pretty good job at the Halifax Regional Police in dealing with them since they started, and so really it's good to hear, not necessarily good to hear, but the fact that we all share some of the same issues is and we have a bit of a community of shared interest and common sort of concerns and discussions. So it's good to be able to have that in this forum and try to move some of those things a little bit forward.
Yeah, because the pro-Palestine protest at Dalhousie, they were there for quite a while, and was there anything, and that does resolve peacefully, people would say. So, but was there anything that you've learned to even this, like say, that framework, any conversations that might have changed anything?
Yeah, no, like I said, I think because we've been, this becomes the forum by which we have these discussions, but where we sort of cement some of these discussions, but we've been having those discussions ongoing ever since for the last number of months. So we've been sharing information and sharing best practices and sharing that all along in terms of that help, really inform our, some of our responses in terms of, and you're correct, in terms of, the encampment at Dalhousie resolved, I think, as peacefully as it probably could, with very little impact, with very little. Our role in that was very limited in terms of certainly, and really at the end of the day, I think that that's what we all kind of want to see happening, but recognizing that certainly that is, like they say, the global events do impact us locally.
And thinking about when people think about protests and ones that escalated and became quite violent, we think about the most recent, the 3 years ago in front of the old library with the protests in supporting of folks who are homeless. That review obviously hasn't come out yet. It will come back to Board of Police soon, likely. But can you tell me a little bit about, as your chief now, thinking about that situation? You obviously were on the force then. Are there lessons that how that could have been handled today, say, if it happened?
I think the reality is we've seen they've been handled differently. We've seen Victoria Park, we've seen the Grand Parade Square, we've seen those resolved peacefully, and so I think certainly there have been significant changes made in the way that those type of events have been handled since that particular time, and not so much certainly HRM has taken on a much different tact in terms of the Community Safety Office, in terms of recognizing that the police certainly do have a role to play, but it's not necessarily a lead role all the time.
So the change is, from your perspective, a lot of city direction seems to be.
Well, no, I think that certainly certainly community safety and city has a direct role to play. Police still have their specific role to play, but I think that we have shown quite ably in terms of how those things will be handled going forward. In terms of, and I'm sure that there will be recommendations that come forward, and we'll have a look at those, and we'll see how that how we can embed some of those in our processes. But I'm actually quite I'm quite confident in the way that the men and women of our organization respond to protests and encampments and those things today.
Coming up, thousands of people in Greece are forced to evacuate as crews battle a raging wildfire near Athens. Welcome back. The United States has sent guided missile submarines to the Middle East as tensions in the region escalate. Also, American officials say an aircraft carrier that was already en route to the region will now move more quickly. Meanwhile, the war between Israel and Hamas militants rages on. Sarah Coates has the latest on efforts to reach a ceasefire.
Well, Hamas says it won't take part in talks this coming Thursday for a number of reasons. It has stated that these are new conditions set by the Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. Also, of course, the assassination of the head of Hamas's Politburo, Ismail Haniyeh, and also recent strikes in Gaza, with the group calling on mediators to negotiate based on prior talks rather than entering into new ones. Now, we do have a statement here from Hamas. It says that the group is showing flexibility, adding that the mediators should present a plan to implement what was agreed on the 2nd of July. But according to Israeli officials, these talks coming on Thursday are now or never.
Israel will send the negotiations team on the agreed upon date, which is August the 15th. And the reason we're doing that is to finalize the details of the implementation of the framework agreement. Now, we want to get our hostages home, which is why we welcome the outline, which has also been supported by President Biden and the other mediating countries. Israel wants our hostages home while achieving the other goals of the war.
The IDF over the weekend dropping flyers over parts of Khan Yunis in southern Gaza, telling tens of thousands of people to move to these so-called humanitarian areas closer to the coast, although people on the ground say they have nowhere to go. But this is an area that the Israeli military says that rockets have been launched from over the last few days. Red alert sirens have been ringing out in these southern communities on the Gaza border, alerting people of incoming missiles from the Gaza Strip. And right now, Israelis are commemorating the holiday of Tisha B'Av, and this is why the Israeli military has actually sent out an announcement saying that it has expanded a closed military zone on the Gaza border, given that a number of very religious Israelis were planning on heading to this Gaza border region to conduct prayer. Sarah Coates for CBC News, Tel Aviv.
The threat of escalation between Israel and Hezbollah prompted a plea today from Prime Minister Justin Trudeau. He's telling Canadians in Lebanon to leave now and not wait for evacuation flights.
The situation is so difficult that we may not be able to get all Canadians out. That's why while the airports are still open, while there is an opportunity, we're encouraging and asking all Canadians to please leave Lebanon while there are commercial routes available.
Ukraine's military says it now controls 1,000 square kilometers of Russia's Kursk region after staging a surprise incursion last week. It led to the evacuation of communities in the western region. Vladimir Putin is vowing a tough response. But as Kayla Hounsell reports, this development might change Russians' perception of its war in Ukraine.
Russians fleeing their homes, feeling the impacts of war. The country now evacuating a second region, Belgorod. 120,000 people in total, it says, since Ukraine fought its way into Russia. I was in my room. I lay huddled up and it went bang, 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 says this woman. It's been a week since Ukrainian troops battled their way across the border into Russia's Kursk region in a surprise ground assault. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky is now acknowledging the offensive, saying Russia brought war to others and now it's coming back home. Russian President Vladimir Putin convened a meeting of his security officials, vowing to kick the enemy out. The regional governor says Ukraine is now controlling 28 villages in Russia.
Slava Ukraini!
Ukrainian forces raising their flags, stomping on Russia's, are believed to be operating more than 30 kilometers inside Russia. the first occupation of Russian territory since the Second World War.
I think that that's deeply traumatizing for the Russian psyche.
This defense expert says this is a significant moment that could change public opinion of the war inside Russia.
And it's very clear from accounts on the ground in Kursk that there's significant anger at the Russian authorities, that they feel abandoned. However, the key question is, does this fundamentally persuade the Kremlin that the war is not worth it or that it has to settle? And I think the answer to that is no.
As thousands of Russians arrive in Moscow seeking refuge, analysts say Ukraine has managed to shift the dynamic of the war, but they warn that could change again. Kayla Hounsell, CBC News, London.
A major forest fire is raging on the outskirts of Athens. Authorities say it's been decades since any wildfire has come this close to the Greek capital. The CBC's Megan Williams reports.
Well, Greece is hardly a stranger to forest fires. It's had a number this year already, though this one is the most ferocious so far. Some 700 firefighters have been deployed to try and contain the blaze. It started outside of Athens. It spread with gale-like winds far and wide. The country has deployed more than 30 planes and helicopters to try and dump water and contain the blaze. Hundreds of people have had to leave their homes. Cars, schools, trees have been scorched. It's a dramatic situation in a country that is already used to these sorts of fires. And of course, Greece isn't the only country that's facing the situation. There are record temperatures this year. Every year seems to bring more record highs in southern Europe. But this year in Greece, June brought record temperatures as well as July. And here in Italy, we're facing temperatures as high as 40 degrees. There are 17 cities that have been put on high alert, and there are a lot of people who are going to emergency services in this country and other countries because of heat-related illnesses. Now, Spain is facing forest fires as well, as is the Balkans. So far, here in Italy, there have been some smaller contained fires, but nothing like the situation that Greece is facing right now. Megan Williams, CBC News, Lucca.
Residents of Jasper, Alberta will be allowed to go home Friday. 3 weeks ago, a wildfire forced thousands out of the national park and town site.
This re-entry is not to be confused with rehabilitation. We have allowed re-entry, and some will be able to go home, but for many, re-entry will simply be an opportunity to assess either their business or their home or both.
A third of the structures in Jasper were destroyed in the fire. 5,000 people live in the town. Essential services have now been restored, but residents are being told not to count on spending their first night at home. There are no restrictions on who is allowed in, but the mayor is asking any visitors to give residents time and space. As solar farms expand across Canada, there's a new demand cropping up, maintaining the ground around and under the rows of solar panels. In Alberta, some are turning to grazing animals to keep weeds at bay. And as Kyle Bax found out, one researcher wants to go one step further.
Every day, Jana Greer checks in on her animals. About 1,000 sheep spend the summer here at a solar farm east of Calgary. Their job is simple: eat weeds.
Most of them are really high in protein. The sheep enjoy consuming them.
Keeping vegetation down is important so nothing blocks the blistering sun from reaching the solar panels, numbering more than 100,000 on this site. This summer, Greer is also testing out some other four-legged animals to see how they graze amid the rows of panels.
Come on, ladies.
They are kuni pigs, 8 in total, all female.
How can we still use this land? And I think there's so many possibilities.
The booming solar industry is creating an opportunity for some farmers. Deploying animals reduces the need for chemicals or lawn mowing. There's also plenty of research underway, including how best to grow crops. Some plants can thrive underneath, as the panels provide some shade, block the wind, and increase soil moisture.
The data that's coming out is pretty convincing that you can put in solar the correct way and have no loss in yield. And if you are clever about it, you can actually get a fairly substantial increase in yield.
The rapid growth of large solar and wind projects has created friction in some rural areas as landscapes change and farmland can disappear. That's one reason why the Alberta government is introducing new rules, including a requirement for agriculture on solar sites in some areas, whether it's grazing animals or growing crops. For Greer, there is room to grow her farming business as more solar fields are built.
It's not solar development versus ag. It's coming together to the table to say, how can we both be a benefit and work together?
As for these girls, they passed the test. The plan is to have 4 times as many here next summer. Kyle Bax, CBC News, near Strathmore, Alberta.
More restaurants in Canada are serving halal certified meat. The term means that items such as chicken are religiously compliant for some observant Muslims. But the movement isn't just about faith and food. As Anis Hadari explains, for many, it's just business.
At this fried chicken restaurant, all the chicken is certified halal. It's partly to be inclusive.
That's part of our core values, as far as it is with our consumers or even our staff, and even with our food. So using the halal chicken allows us to reach that cultural diversity in the marketplace.
For many Muslims, eating food considered halal is a requirement. Halal chicken has to be certified to meet religious guidelines. For this owner, it's not about religion. The certification gives her quality assurance.
No one really is going to want to pay the price tag for the organic chicken in a fried chicken joint, realistically. So this was like the closest thing we could get.
Not all halal meat is like organic chicken, but demand is surging. Maple Lodge Farms has been producing it for more than 30 years.
Both restaurant and retail sales are growing in pace. We watch the retail market really closely. We know that it's growing at double digits year over year over the last 7 years.
KFC recently got attention on social media for apparently switching many restaurants to halal chicken. The company didn't respond to CBC News requests to confirm. Boston Pizza has offered some halal items for around a decade.
Because it really is genuinely no different. The meat is exactly the same.
Food marketer and halal consumer Salima Jivraj says it's a welcome shift in her professional and personal life.
We're looking 20, 30 years ago, barely nothing, to now my kids have access to things that I never did. It's a really nice feeling.
A lucrative market estimated to grow by 20% each year, specifically because both Muslims and non-Muslims are trying halal. Anis Hadari, CBC News, Calgary.
A blockbuster film is shooting in Calgary this summer. It's a sequel to a popular romantic comedy, and it features 2 movie stars. But as Aaron Collins explains, many Canadians don't know who they are.
The buzz on this Calgary film set, easy to see, tougher to contain.
We take pictures in an orderly manner without ruining our set.
The film's director caught off guard by the crowds.
I love the love they gave us and how I wish I could give them what they want. Kaliwa pa, Mark!
The movie Hello, Love Again is a sequel to one of the highest-grossing Filipino movies ever made.
I love you.
The original, a rom-com about a young Filipino woman working in Hong Kong trying to get to Canada.
Tutuloy na ako sa Canada, ma. Nabayaran ko na yung work permit.
I'm like representing this girl who has a lot of dreams, who wants to be more, and I think Canada is the perfect place for that.
The film features 2 of the Philippines' biggest stars, Catherine Bernardo and Alden Richards, following their on-screen romance all the way to Canada.
Action!
The latest chapter now filming and feeling the love in Calgary.
We understand the excitement that they have to see us, and then, we, as much as possible, we do the best we can to accommodate them whenever they go to their locations.
Okay, 1, 2. Those fans are persistent, tracking down the locations of shoots no matter how secluded. The cast's Calgary reception fueled by the city's large Filipino community.
How come this film resonates so much with Filipinos here in Calgary and across the country?
I think the story is very endearing because it tells the story of every individual who came to Canada and find a better life.
The film will wrap shooting in Alberta over the coming weeks. It's expected to be released worldwide in November. Aaron Collins, CBC News, Calgary.
Canada's main stock index rose today, helped by strength in the energy sector, while U.S. markets were mixed. Here's a look at things as we head to break. All right, lots going on in the skies. I mean, obviously talking about Ernesto, but then the shower, the meteor shower as well. The Northern Lights for a nice top off as well.
Yeah, and they were spotted here in Nova Scotia as well. Did get a shot from Port Maitland. We'll get to that tomorrow night. Can't share them all, but have a look at this one. This one from Amherst Shore, and yeah, not far from that shot earlier that we took over the Confederation Bridge. This one from Diane also has a meteor
Yeah, wow. The combination is right on point here, isn't it?
Yes, it certainly is. And Diane, thank you so much for sharing. Again, the Northern Lights, lower chance tonight that they will be able to be seen in our skies, but a solid chance that we will see more activity from the Perseid meteor shower, peaking early this morning, but still expected to be quite active tonight and even into tomorrow night as well. So hopefully some good viewing for you there. Look to the north, as you can see on the bottom of your screen. That is the direction you'll want to look, and the skies do look pretty favorable once we clear those showers for this evening. Tomorrow, we're going to be doing the same thing. Sun and cloud, showers, and a risk for thunderstorms developing into the afternoon. Cape Breton, the Northumberland shore, edging into central. That's going to be our greatest risk, but can't rule out showers and thunderstorms as far southwest as the Yarmouth and Tri-County area, so we'll be keeping you posted on that. And then for Wednesday, we are looking at more active weather. Note temperatures a bit cooler on Wednesday. That wind has become east to northeast. You can see that indicated by the arrows there. That is, definitely going to keep temps a little bit cooler, but still, low 20s, widespread. And that frontal boundary is really what is sparking all of this, as it does move in active ahead of it and active behind it, with that shift to northerly winds in behind it as well. The good news is, and we'll jump past this because the muggy meter stays low, and the good news is that we're clearing out towards the end of the week.
But never a dull moment in your line of work, huh?
No, for sure.
All right, thanks, Ryan. Thought you'd like this. It's hard to outsmart an apex predator in the wild or in a zoo, apparently. This is the hidden camera that zookeepers had recently placed in a lion enclosure in Portland, Oregon. It didn't stay hidden for very long. Within days, the curious lions found the camera.
It still ended up capturing a series of wild selfies, but who can blame the animals? So we've all accidentally taken some pictures while messing around with the settings.
Hope the camera's still working.
Yeah.
That's it for us tonight. Thanks so much for watching. We'll see you next time.
Good night.